Hi there, my name is Marie Vaile and I am a counsellor and psychotherapist.
Hi, I'm Sarah Edge. I'm also a counsellor psychotherapist.
And we are here today to talk about the pregnancy-related condition, Hyperemesis Gravidarum.
We are.
Yes, we are.
Which we both have
Yes.
a lived experience of the condition. So we both work professionally with it, but also can talk a little bit about our personal experience as well.
So Hyperemesis Gravidarum is a condition that isn't particularly well known. So there's a charity called Pregnancy Sickness Support, which is the only UK charity that supports women with this condition. So this is a quote taken from their website about what HG is. HG is the abbreviation for it. HG is a condition at the extreme end of pregnancy sickness spectrum. It affects approximately 1 to 3% of people with pregnancy sickness and is incredibly debilitating illness for sufferers. So that's a little bit about what it is.
Yeah. So I suppose it's important to say it's not morning sickness.
It's absolutely
It's
not
a lot different from morning sickness, but I suppose that's how most people would relate. It's like extreme form of that.
It is. When looking at sort of the statistics about it, there's about 30,000 pregnancies per year in the UK that are affected by HG. And I feel like it's really important to talk about the fact that it is a spectrum condition.
Yeah.
So we've both had it.
Yeah.
We both had it quite differently.
Yeah.
That's fair to
Yeah,
say.
very fair to say, yeah.
Comes on really, really early on. So
Yeah.
I was 4 weeks.
Yeah, I hadn't even missed my period yet, so I suppose I wasn't even 4 weeks pregnant, and that was actually the first. I remember thinking at the time, this isn't good, that I'm starting to feel so unwell, and I'm not, I'm not even 4 weeks pregnant, so
It starts off.
that's how I knew I was.
Yeah. And it kind of starts with that real extreme fatigue,
Yeah,
nausea,
yeah.
and then it kind of just snowballs.
Actually, I think that's really important because the fatigue is like, because you think of the sickness and the nausea, but I think like most sufferers will also say that the fatigue is like on another level, and that was my experience.
So the reason that I did the pregnancy test was because of the fatigue.
Ah, wow.
So that was kind of what really, made me feel that something wasn't quite
Yeah.
right, because I was just feeling so exhausted for no apparent reason.
Yeah.
And it was the fatigue, I think, that was the first point for me that it became, really, really debilitating. And I think most women that I work with that have this condition, they all kind of roughly say the same thing, really, don't they?
Had you heard of it before you had it?
Nope. So when I was diagnosed with it, I was diagnosed at, I want to say 5 weeks. I think I was about 5 weeks pregnant when I was diagnosed. And when I was diagnosed because I went to out of hours. I saw an out of hours doctor because I was so unwell. And he told me that I had this condition. I'd never heard of it. I asked him to write it down.
Yeah.
And then I asked him how I said it. And it just kind of went from there.
Yeah.
What about you?
I had heard of it because of people in the public eye. But yeah, I don't think I knew an awful lot about it. And I think like the perception in my mind was that it was perhaps more extreme than what I was experiencing. Yeah. So I don't think I kind of fully related to the fact that that is what I had. Well, initially as well, I went to the doctors probably around 5 weeks, and they said I had norovirus. So I actually wasn't diagnosed with HG until I was about 7 weeks, because they were like, I think you've got norovirus, it'll last a few days and then it'll begin to get better. Obviously I was like, no, this is actually getting progressively worse. Yeah. And so at that point I kind of went back, and I think they were like, oh no, I think maybe.
They misdiagnosed you.
Yeah, but I think the problem was I'd been pregnant before and not had a HG pregnancy. I would call it like on the more extreme end of like normal nausea. I would say I felt more unwell than the norm, but I was still working, I was kind of coping, functioning. It wasn't like that experience. So I think because I'd not had it before, maybe it sort of feels unusual that I had it in a second pregnancy and not in a first.
And what we do know is that women that have hyperemesis in one pregnancy tend to have it in subsequent pregnancies. So there's a possibility that your first pregnancy, as you said, obviously, it was kind of on the other end, but maybe that was a HG pregnancy.
A mild.
Yeah. So I think the statistics are that if you have a HG pregnancy, you're 85% going to have it again.
Yeah, which is actually really scary then if you decide you want to have another baby. And I think like after I had my eldest, because I did feel really, really unwell, like I had the nausea, the kind of whole pregnancy, really, really bad at the beginning. I remember thinking when I went to a second pregnancy, like, this will be fine as long as I don't feel any worse. Like, I kind of had made like this sort of mental pact with myself of like, I can cope, I've been through it before, as long as it's not any worse. Obviously it was like 1,000 times worse, which meant it was really, I hadn't even really considered that would happen, that I would feel more unwell. Obviously now I understand that makes sense, like, because I think the evidence is that subsequent pregnancies you are worse as well, like the condition gets worse. But because I didn't know, I suppose I never described my first pregnancy as a HG pregnancy, and I think I still feel a bit of like a fraud or an imposter describing my second pregnancy as a HG pregnancy, even though I was diagnosed, signed off work for 20 weeks. It's still, because I know other people had it much more severely than me, I still feel a bit like I have to caveat that, like, oh, it could have been worse.
And that feels quite unfair, doesn't it? Because as like Hyperemesis gravidarum is a spectrum condition. So there's, some people have it on this side and then some people have it on this side, and then there's obviously everything in the middle of that. And it feels really quite frustrating where women will have it like on this side, but then feel as though they don't kind of get to own that right, as I had a HG pregnancy because I wasn't vomiting 100 times a day.
And it's funny because as we're talking now, I'm having like flashbacks to that time, and I'm like, actually, what am I on about? Like, that it wasn't that bad. It was horrendous. Like, I suppose what I'm saying, I wasn't hospitalised, and that almost has become the like defining of a HG pregnancy is when you end up in hospital on a drip, and that never happened for me. So almost like I didn't get that battle scar.
And because not every woman with hyperemesis needs to be hospitalised. There's obviously, we've heard the term dry HG, which is where you don't vomit at all, and you've just got this debilitating constant nausea. That means you can't eat, you can't get out of bed because you're incredibly weak and well, and they're what's the word I'm looking for? The triggers. That can come with that, like motion, smells. Oh my God, like nobody was allowed to cook in my house.
Oh, same. The oven didn't get used. No, Oh no, meat was a real thing. I couldn't, the oven, I could smell everything that had ever been cooked in the oven, ever, in its whole existence. It's like my sense of smell was on steroids. It was extreme.
So I was hospitalised 3 times in total with my HG pregnancy. And even though I was hospitalised, I still didn't, I still had those feelings that it wasn't that bad. Because I remember on one of my hospitalisations, a doctor came to see me, and I was kind of like nibbling away on a cracker, and he was like, "Oh, but you are managing to eat then," as if as if I didn't warrant being there, like I didn't deserve to be there, and it was. Yeah, so I think even though you've got women that are hospitalised, they still kind of face that, that unfairness around whether they do or don't have it.
I wonder why that happens, because I know we were talking earlier, weren't we, like on our own kind of, when we were recording our other content, about when your experience is minimised or dismissed or invalidated, how you become like disconnected from the reality of actually what's happening. And it's almost like that, isn't it? It's because people find it really difficult to accept that like HG is more than morning sickness or is a medical condition, and it's not about the person being dramatic or less resilient, or all of those, completely inaccurate narratives. It's like, because that exists, you don't fully integrate the experience and accept that, like, yes, you are having a medical condition that is managed. I mean, I don't know whether you managed yours via medication. I did. It's almost like it's this thing that is okay, or is like, it's kind of normal, or a worse end of normal.
Yeah, I think the medication is something that's really important to bring into this as well, because the scaremongering that goes with medication in pregnancy, it's almost like we're made to feel like we shouldn't do it. And I was medicated quite early days from it. So when I was diagnosed, I was given one type of medication, didn't work, ended up in hospital, tried. So by the end of it, I tried a lot of different medications. But by the time I was 20 weeks pregnant, which is when I was hospitalised for the 3rd time, I was on 21 tablets a day.
Oh my goodness.
Which was excessive. And then, when you think about sort of all of that stigma that goes with taking medication during pregnancy, like that fed into so much guilt that I had, because I was constantly like, it feels like a battle between surviving and then doing what's right for your unborn baby.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, I can't keep this baby alive if I don't have this medication.
See, I don't feel like that was the like internal narrative for me, because I don't feel like my HD wasn't bad enough that I didn't feel like my life or even my baby's life was at risk from it. So it felt like it was this really like selfish decision of like, this is about my suffering and not about survival, and that is not a good reason to take medication. And I even had like, you know, people kind of, are you sure you need that? And it was like, yeah, no, I am sure, because I'm really, really suffering. And I think, you know, we're going to touch on this, aren't we? That like, it isn't just a physiological condition of like the physical body, like it affects your mental health, and it is a psychological experience. And actually that is arguably just as bad, or if not like harder to deal with.
Yeah. No, I absolutely, completely agree. There's a part about what we were going to talk about weight loss.
Yeah.
And that, you know, women feel as though if they've not lost a certain amount of weight,
Yeah,
it doesn't
100%.
it's not a HD pregnancy. And I think that feels really unfair as well, that, you know, you're almost sort of saying that you don't have this condition if you've not lost a certain amount of weight, because again, not all women lose weight with it. And I think, you know, that's...
No, I didn't lose any weight. I just didn't gain any at the beginning of my pregnancy. I did start to towards the end, when my sickness started to like improve and I was kind of being sick less times a day. Yeah, I wasn't one of those people, you know, when you kind of hear the stories of that person's lost 6 stone and like, you know, they haven't eaten for 9 months, and obviously those cases do exist. I think that again was another reason that I felt like, do I actually have this?
Yeah.
Have I like pretended to the GP that I don't know that this is worse than it is? Or but it was, that was a really hard bit for me. And also I think because other people couldn't see like the impact that, you know,
because you don't look pregnant, do you? You've got no bump, you've got nothing to show for it.
And I'm also not, you know, displaying a 6 stone weight loss, so it's like, well, are you that unwell? Because we can't see it.
When did it peak for you?
Around between weeks 9 and 12. Week 9, I was like clawing my eyes out of like, I can't do this, is horrific, this is really, really bad. And everyone says to you, don't they, like, oh, your morning sickness gets better at the end of the first trimester. No, it does not. Like, it was so bad until around the halfway through. So around week 20, I did start to notice some improvement. And by week 24, 25, I had stopped vomiting like 30 times a day. It's just down to like 3. So like, you know,
just vomiting 3 times a day.
Fine, that was like an actual holiday. And then actually by the 3rd trimester, I had stopped being sick. So I was one of those, I was going to say lucky people, but comparatively to those that are sick all the way through. I did start vomiting again in labour, but
I think very similar. Mine peaked roughly about sort of not between 9 and 12 weeks. And I distinctly remember being told, because I was hospitalised at 6 weeks and hospitalised at 7 weeks. And then I was hospitalised later on. And I distinctly remember being 7 weeks pregnant and someone saying to me, you know, you'll get to 12 weeks and you'll be absolutely fine. It'll go, it'll just lift and you'll start to enjoy this. And it's going to be a completely different experience. And I literally remember getting to 12 weeks and literally waking up on the day of 12 weeks.
Thinking this is actually
thinking
horrific.
Like this, if anything, this has got worse. Like, and then it was like, 16 weeks.
They just keep moving the goalposts. And I think you actually think, don't you, at points, I remember maybe thinking around week 7, like, I can't possibly feel worse than this. And then you would feel worse, and then you would feel worse. And it would be like, how is this getting worse? Because I already feel like this is at the edge of what I can tolerate, like what is possible for a person to tolerate. And then for it just to keep getting worse is just such... And it doesn't feel temporary, does it? I know like people are telling you this is a temporary condition. Obviously, when you're no longer pregnant, you won't experience it. But like actually 9 months is a really, really long time to feel like that.
I think 9 months is a really long time when you're waking up in the morning and you're either feeling sick or vomiting. And then you have, because I was the same, I wasn't in work. I think I was off work for about 4 months or something. But and then when you're sort of trying to get to the end of that day and you're literally, I think the best way to describe it is that you're not living, you're existing.
Oh yeah,
You are
yeah.
just
There's
trying
no
to get
life.
no. You're literally you're clock watching, and you're just thinking another hour's gone by.
I
I've
couldn't even
survived.
watch telly. It made me
No,
feel sick.
yeah.
So it wasn't even like I was just in bed watching Netflix,
Having a jolly.
having a jolly. I couldn't even, that made me feel unwell. Like bright lights made me feel unwell. Like basically literally everything. Did you have the saliva thing?
Sucking bold sweets. Yeah, so saliva is something that goes hand in hand with a HD pregnancy.
It is a HD symptom, isn't it? Yeah.
It is a HD symptom. And I think every person that I've ever come across, professionally and personally, have had it.
Yeah.
And I'm not even sure how. I don't know where the science is that comes from that. But, I just remember, this is really gross, isn't it? But I just remember like constantly needing to spit.
Constantly.
I
constantly had a cup that I would have to spit into because if I swallowed it, I'd be instantly sick. And because like that feeling, isn't it, before anybody vomits and you kind of salivate.
Yeah.
It's like that, but
constantly.
Just like times a million. And so you can't even explain or imagine what that's like. But that was actually for me one of the hardest, because I felt like that was almost the most debilitating symptom that stopped me leaving the house. Because I suppose if you're pregnant and you're sick, people are kind of like, oh, like, you can't spit. I can't walk around.
It's not socially acceptable.
No.
No. And so, like, triggers.
Yeah.
So my triggers were smells. I could not, like, my sense of smell was so incredibly heightened.
Yeah.
I distinctly remember my husband coming in from work one day, and he stood at the other end of my living room, and I could smell what he'd had for lunch. And and I remember he'd eaten a fajita chicken sandwich.
Oh no, that's
and I could smell it from the other side of the room. And I literally looked at him and was like, "You've had fajita chicken for lunch." And he was like, "But he'd eaten other bits and pieces since then. All I could smell was this." And so I think the sense of smell.
Yes.
And that's debilitating because you can't go anywhere because everywhere smells.
Everything's really bad.
Like smells.
I had a kid who smelled really bad.
No. Yeah. So there's just that smell thing, and and we live by a beach.
Yeah.
So we were like, oh, we'll try and go for a walk down the beach. And then I remember there was like a burger van thing, and I had to literally go onto the beach to vomit.
Yeah.
Because the smell that was coming.
Cooking meat is a bad one.
Yeah. Yeah. So smells, and then like motion. I don't know. Like
yes,
I've
really
struggled in a car.
It actually feels a bit like travel sickness, doesn't it? Like, and I'm sure there's a link between travel sickness and HG. I'm sure someone said to me that before. Like people that are travel sick are more likely to. I don't know if that's.
I'm the other way around now. So now I can't travel in the back of a car or on a bus.
Yeah.
If I go in a bus or travel in the back of someone's car, I'm sick.
Yeah. I'm not too bad. It's more cumulative for me. So if the journey is really long, then that I would be more likely to feel sick. But it still isn't. Like, it's not bad. But that's kind of what I feel like HG felt like for me, was like this permanent state of really bad travel sickness, combined with like a vomiting bug. But motion, well, I didn't really go in the car very much because, so I don't. That one's hard to say. The smell definitely smells. Also like being sat up. So I would have to be like lay down quite a lot. Like it was almost like a vertigo kind of feeling of like spinning. So a lot of, I think the smell was the main one. Anything to do with food. It was anything to do with like the smell of food, the preparation of food, the oven. I couldn't have the oven on my entire pregnancy because I could. It was.
The oven has a smell all by itself.
Yeah, well, you can smell anything that's ever cooked in it. That's how I remember it. It's like I could just. Bacon was this. I mean, I'm veggie anyway, but normally, I will even admit the smell of bacon is nice. And the smell of bacon would just turn my stomach just really, really bad. That was one of the worst smells for me, was bacon, I think.
Cat food. I couldn't feed the cat.
Yeah, no.
And my cat now hates me because I didn't feed him. But cat food. I really struggled to feed my cat.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but like cat food for me was just really, really just didn't.
What were your safe foods?
My safe food, incredibly boring. Plain pasta, a particular brand. Had to be this one particular brand of plain pasta, and red grapes. And
I can see that.
Volvic strawberry flavoured water. Couldn't have any other flavoured water. Couldn't have anything.
Yeah.
Volvic strawberry flavoured water, plain pasta and grapes.
Yes.
What about you?
So plain crumpets.
Yep.
And San Pellegrino lemonade that had gone slightly flat. And
we're such divas.
Yeah, I know, like really, really particular. Like, and I sent my husband once to Tesco, and I was like, "Can you go and buy like all the crumpets that are in Tesco because it's all I'm eating, so just buy all of them." And he came back with 2 packets, and I was like, "That's not the instruction. All of the crumpets that are in Tesco, all of them." It's like, what can I do with 16 crumpets?
But I will eat the 16 crumpets.
And I was telling you earlier, wasn't I, about my San Pellegrino lemonade that I packed 4 in my hospital bag for my birth. And then just before I had my daughter, while I was waiting for them to induce me, I said, "Oh, will you pass me one of those lemonades?" And he had drank them all of them.
Grounds for divorce.
Yeah, I know, it's bad, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, and he's going to hate me now because I've just told everybody on the internet.
You know.
I mean, everyone that knows it will believe it.
So shall we talk mental health during pregnancy? Because I feel like there's so much that can come with that.
Yeah. And it feels like it is, obviously it's not a mental health condition, but it feels so closely related. And I actually don't know anybody that I either know personally or that I've worked with that hasn't experienced some form of psychological distress during a HD pregnancy and following, because actually it doesn't just go away. You know, once you deliver your baby, that an experience as traumatic as that on any like level of the spectrum, you need to recover from it.
You do, and I think that, you know, when you're so unwell with something, you know, if we think about like any other condition, any other illness that you have, like you have a sickness bug or something like that, and you just want that to end.
Yeah.
And so if we think about this in the same way, and we think that you are so unwell, you're vomiting, you're nauseous, you're fatigued, you can't do life as you know it, I think it's quite a normal feeling and quite like a normal emotion to want that to end. So
of course it is.
So then obviously, you know, we're talking about termination for medical reasons.
Yeah.
And I work with a lot of women that terminate for medical reasons. And, you know, when we look at, you know, the decision that was made at the time, it was 100% the right decision.
Yeah.
Because her mental well-being, her physical health, everything was, you know, sort of deteriorating. And obviously I know that we're going to talk about mental health post-pregnancy, but the psychological impacts that come with terminating a wanted baby,
it's massive,
is just devastating, isn't it? It's got a devastating impact.
And I think also like the fact that some people continue with a high HG pregnancy kind of plays into that experience of shame and guilt.
If you could do it, why couldn't I?
And I think that really relates to like, I don't think there's other areas. Obviously, like one of my kind of areas of work is with the breastfeeding difficulties, and I think again it's like if somebody powers through the pain or pushes past the difficulties and then has managed to breastfeed, it's then like, well, if they've done it, this is like expectation that everyone does, and actually that's not, there isn't a one size fits all, and we all have different levels of support, we all experience it differently. Like the impact on your work and your career, like not all jobs are understanding and supportive if you're being signed off work or understand or even try and understand. So it's really, you know, and if you're financially supporting a family and cannot work,
the stress
that like
and the pressure and
the not being at work was a big thing for me. Like I felt constantly bad, like I'm letting everybody down, like I'm letting my partner down, I already had a child, I'm letting him down, I'm letting work down, you know, I can't go to various hen do's and things, I'm letting my friends down. Like it feels like you're just on your own with this thing.
Then there's that isolation that comes into that, isn't there? So we're talking about being alone. And I think, you know, when you're not in work, you're not going and socialising with friends, you know, you can be surrounded by people but still feel really isolated. I know I certainly felt like that because nobody gets it. I think the only people that can really, truly understand a HG pregnancy are people that have either had it or lived with you whilst you're having it. And that's really, really lonely in itself, isn't it?
It is. Did you get to a point, this is probably like, you know, a really big question, but did you ever feel like terminating your pregnancy? Yeah, I did too.
I contemplated it quite a lot, if I'm honest.
Same.
Because I, you know, and it's like what we were talking about, like every single day feels like, how am I going to get to the end of this day?
Yeah.
And I think, you know, what we were talking about in the sense of where people are all like, oh, it's only 9 months.
Yeah.
But every day felt like an absolute chore. And I remember thinking numerous times, I can't do another day like this.
Yeah, that's
I cannot do
I
another
can't
day
take
like
it anymore.
No, I can't. I want my life back. I want my
Yeah.
body back. And so, so I contemplate terminating a lot. I even had a colleague at the time who I was on the phone to her one night, and I remember she asked me, she was like, are you sure that you want to do this?
Yeah.
And I don't know if, like, at that moment I was like, oh, I want the baby, but I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, I can't, you know, they go hand in hand at this point, don't they?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, I think termination, I think a lot of women have those thoughts.
Definitely. I think you were saying before, like if you're going through something absolutely horrendous, it's really human and natural to look for a way out of it.
Yeah.
And so like terminating a pregnancy, even when it's a wanted pregnancy, is like the obvious kind of solution. If you're looking for a quick fix, or you're looking for like, I cannot tolerate this any longer, I need this to end. That's an obvious place for your brain to go. And obviously for some women, it's a really valid decision. And like you were saying, like it's the word choice isn't even appropriate, because it's not, there's like no win-win. Like they wanted a baby, they don't want the condition. So you look for a way to make that pregnancy end. For me, I did absolutely consider termination, and I had those thoughts quite a lot, but there was this real, like, I was kind of like praying for a miscarriage.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If you have a miscarriage, it's not your fault.
Yes.
Is it?
It was like,
someone's done it for you.
Out of my hands.
Yeah.
Which is like, and obviously having a miscarriage is like horrendous trauma. That is what I wanted to happen, even though it was so complex, because I think that the whole beginning of that period of feeling so unwell, considering termination, praying for miscarriage, constant thoughts of, what have I done? Why did I try for a baby? Why did I want to be pregnant again? Like, look what I've done to my son. I can't look after him. I can't, like, this is a massive mistake. I do feel that really impacted my like bonding with my daughter, like in pregnancy and in the postpartum. So I didn't talk to my bump. I didn't feel like affectionate towards my bump. And that was really different. That was a real contrast to my first pregnancy, where I had felt like connected to my baby and excited about the prospect of having a baby. And it was just nothing like that. None of that. It was just thoughts of regret, shame, like failure. Like it was just a really, really negative experience. And I do think that really impacted the bond.
Very similar, I think. And I think it's really quite hard to bond with something and enjoy something that's making you feel like that.
Yeah.
So, you know, like, how can you start that bonding process whilst you're feeling so unwell?
Yeah.
So no, I was exactly the same. The other thing I think that I had personally was that, because there are risks that come with a HG pregnancy, there's a high risk of miscarriage.
Yeah.
And I think because I was so unwell and I wasn't eating and I was so poorly and I was on all this medication, I'd almost kind of like catastrophized and thought that something was going to happen to the baby before he was born, or during labor or something. So I think there was also that self-preservation that I wouldn't allow myself to get attached until he was physically here.
Yeah.
And then, you know, even then that was still a difficult bonding process. So I think there's that other element of mental health during pregnancy that, you know, it's really hard to get excited about something that, you know, you're worried you might not have.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said before about you're not going to bond when you feel so unwell. And I was just thinking, like, imagine like turning up to a date with a vomiting bug. Like you're not going to connect, are you? You're not going to, because all you're concentrating on is how horrific you feel. And I think like that, obviously it's not the same as dating, but I think that there is something like you can't think about anything else. You feel, and like, when somebody has, you know, I love to tell people if they've had like a vomiting bug, like imagine feeling like that for months and they're like, I couldn't, that is so bad. Like the 3 days has brought me to my knees. And it's like, that is what it's like. Like there's no respite. And people would ask me like, do you feel slight relief when you're sick? Like in the same way you are if you are you're unwell, you've got like, bacterial infection or food poisoning, you get some relief from vomiting. And I never felt that. So as soon as I was sick, the nausea would just still be there. There was always something there. Like there was never this kind of temporary relief. And actually the nausea for me, I think, was the worst part.
Yeah.
Like that was...
Because there was no let up to that.
There's no let up. I mean, I feel like I'm saying everything was the most debilitating part.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, I think the nausea, there was, I do remember feeling some very slight relief after vomiting, because I was like, oh my God, it's out. And then obviously then you're back to, you're just kind of doing a full circle, then you're back to square one again. But, and it's crazy, isn't it, that we're trying to find, like we're saying that, vomiting's a good thing, and you get a bit of relief from that, when that's a grim experience, isn't it?
People love to find a silver lining, don't they? Like there's always got to be this like silver lining to an experience. I know you said that HG pregnancy is more likely to result in miscarriage. I didn't actually know that, and I feel like I was constantly told it was a really good sign that my baby was healthy.
Yeah. Must be a sign of a healthy baby.
Really healthy pregnancy and a really like healthy baby.
So mental health post-pregnancy.
Bad.
Rubbish.
In a word.
Just get in the bin.
How was yours?
I mean, I had a breakdown.
Yeah.
I was diagnosed with PTSD.
Yeah.
I was medicated for my mental health.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing for me is that I had to grieve the second child. So we made the decision not to have another baby.
Totally understand.
I decided that I couldn't do it again.
Yeah.
And my husband also said that he couldn't do it.
Yeah.
He couldn't watch me do that again.
Yeah.
So between the two of us, we made the I'm not going to say choice, because it was not a choice that we had any control over. But we made the decision not to have another one, and that hugely impacted my mental health.
It's complex, isn't it? Because it's like the other things that it impacts. So you're not only grieving the loss of like pregnancy, how you would have wanted, and like the impact of that, but also like the wider impact of HG pregnancy meant that you couldn't have any more children. And so it's like the knock-on effect. I think like for me as well, like I think I had this and this is, as a therapist, and I was a therapist at the time, this kind of really naive expectation that like once she was out and the placenta was out, that I was going to feel 1,000 times better. And there was, like, as soon as my placenta was delivered, there was immediately like, oh my goodness, I don't feel sick. It was immediate. I spoke to you about this before. Like I rode a bit of a high, I think, like after I had a good birth experience with her. I was no longer sick. I'd been really anxious about breastfeeding because I'd had such a difficult time the first time, but we'd had no problems, and it felt like everything was going really smoothly. So I'd kind of was like, oh, this is everything I thought would happen. The pregnancy's over. I feel really well. In fact, I feel the best I've ever felt. Amazing. And then there was this massive crash. So for me, I feel like there was, like, I rode a bit of a high of like, yay, I'm no longer pregnant, and this stuff that I was really worried about has gone really well. And then there was this huge crash. And I don't think maybe it was all the HG pregnancy, because I had my daughter in the first lockdown, and I actually think the pandemic was a big part of that as well. But I do think there was a lot of kind of grief and trauma that I just hadn't sort of accepted myself that was there, and hadn't kind of assimilated as part of my experience. And so there was a lot of like unprocessed stuff from that HG pregnancy that I think took a while to actually bring to the surface, or feel able to bring to the surface and talk through again. I felt really unwell, like mentally. My anxiety was really like severe, to the point where I was kind of seeing things that weren't there. I was having like visual hallucinations. I was constantly feeling on edge, and I felt like I was on the edge of a like psychotic episode. And I think the fact that I was seeing things that I knew weren't real, it was really scary. And like I think now I understand that is a symptom of like really severe anxiety, and that if somebody's like aware that their hallucinations are hallucinations, it's not necessarily a psychotic symptom, because of the awareness is there, but it's very frightening. And I kind of constantly felt like, that's what I'm gonna lose a grip on reality, and I was constantly worried I was gonna hurt myself. That was like a real thing for me. And I think that, I know that the HG played a role in that anxiety and the like difficulty bonding. And I think that was a big part of it.
Yeah, difficulty bonding, I think, was a really tricky one for me as well. I think because even though, like, and similar, like I built up to this is going to end when he's born.
Yeah.
And I was like, and a little bit similar to, you know, when you were early days pregnant, they were like, oh, it'll be fine by 12 weeks, it'll be fine by 6 weeks. And then you got to a point where you'll be fine by the time that this is done. And I was like, I lived for that.
Yeah.
And then when he was born, very similar. It was gone, it was fine, and I was thinking, oh my God, I'm hungry. I could feel hungry for the first time in months. And I was able to eat again.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I remember distinctly, because unfortunately, we were both quite poorly after he was born, and we were both in hospital for a while. And I remember like looking at him in his little incubator thing and thinking, I wasn't even glad that he was born. I was like, I was so fixated on this ending that all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, like it dawned on me that bonding hadn't even happened. And you know, and so that kind of really took, and then I felt horrific.
Yes.
I had all of this mum guilt because I didn't feel how normal mums should feel after having a baby.
Of love,
Yeah, there was none of that at all. And I felt like I was the worst mother in the world because that's how I thought I should have felt. And it took a little while, and I, you know, because I was really quite lucky in that I had perinatal mental health support. And I distinctly remember having these thoughts to myself that, like, I'm going to have to put him up for adoption or something because I'm not good enough for him. Like, I don't deserve to be his mother because I don't feel what I think I should have felt. And I think if somebody, like, if this was talked about more, if this was normalised, if this was talked about in a way that, like, I wasn't a bad mum, then I think I probably wouldn't have had those thoughts. But because none of this is talked about, because all we see is, you know, mums having babies and then loving their kids and, you know, kind of doing the motherhood thing. And I thought I was the one that was, like, I thought I was a terrible person because it just wasn't, you know, so yeah.
So somebody had explained to you that when there is like trauma during pregnancy or delivery, that actually to struggle to bond or to not feel that love is like really normal and it can be expected. That would really help go some way to like understand what's happening. But I think because you're set up to be like, you're going to feel this like overwhelming rush of love and this bond. I didn't want to hold my daughter when she was born, and it was somewhere between like a complete indifference and just a sort of neutral feeling like, oh, I've just had a baby but I feel nothing, to also like bordering a bit of like disgust of like, I actually don't want to hold her.
Yeah.
It was weird because I wanted her to be held, so I was like insisting that my husband take your shirt off, do the skin to skin. I wanted her to be held by somebody. I was like, it can't be me, I can't do it. It's hard because you feel really bad sort of saying these things out loud, and I always think about like, imagine if she listens to this like one day.
But then imagine she listens to this and feels heard and validated, because she's going to realise that what her mum went through wasn't a normal experience.
No.
In terms of, you know, what a normal birth or normal pregnancy looks like.
Yeah. It's hard, isn't it? Because I feel like there's so much regret and so many thoughts of regret after she was born, of like, it was this constant, what have I done? I shouldn't have done this. Like, and I couldn't, I remember my mum saying to me like one time, like, but you did, and you have got a daughter. And it was like, I was just constantly trying to find, I was like, no, I was constantly trying to find a way to back out of it, to like redo it or bargain or be like, well, if I did this and this would, like, it was this constant bargaining and constant like, how can I backtrack out of this? And it actually took me a long time to fully accept that she was here and like part of our family. And I've got such a close bond with her now. I absolutely adore her. I cannot imagine my life without her.
And I think it's important she knows that.
Yeah.
I think it's important that when she's of an age, you know, talking to her about this, and maybe one day she will watch this and she'll realise mum's an absolute superhero. Yeah.
I hope by the time she has children, they found that.
I hope they found a cure for it.
Because it does, there is some genetic.
There's a genetic hit. Yeah, there's science that supports that it is genetic. So fingers crossed. I think it's important that, you know, even though they are young and they're not of age and things like that, but I think it's important that, you know, they know that this is that this is a situation and this is what, what potentially comes with having children, and it's not.
Yeah. That's what we're trying to address, isn't it? That like it is all of the joyful, magical stuff. It is all the love. It is all of the, like, it's absolutely incredible. But it is also the loss. It is also the stuff that comes with it. It also sometimes involves trauma and grief. And it's like those things can coexist.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be like, you're both grateful and traumatized.
Yeah,
it's like, those things actually can experience both of them, and you do in motherhood all the time.
Yeah, so there's lots of different avenues towards that, isn't there? And I think, it's important that, like, they know that.
Yeah. Should we move on to the things never to say to someone
yes,
with
because
HG?
we've talked a little bit about sort of the wider impact, and we know how that is. So this is my favourite part. I really enjoyed creating these.
And I did. And as they were so similar, our lists, weren't they?
We
when
did.
We sent them to each other.
We both came up with the same list. Okay, so things not to say to someone with HG. You go first. You say it. You say
I
it.
can't even say the word.
You say
okay.
it. Should we say it together?
Yeah, right.
Have you tried ginger? I swear to God, if someone said ginger one more time.
Don't condone violence,
no.
But sometimes it's necessary, isn't it?
Right, can we just say to anybody watching this, ginger is not a cure for Hyperemesis Gravidarum. No. Please don't suggest ginger to anybody.
In fact, just err on the side of caution that if anyone says they feel sick, just don't
don't say ginger.
Don't say ginger, or like reference ginger, or any mention of anything that contains ginger.
No,
would
ginger's
be a good.
Not like abolish ginger from the dictionary and from your lives. It's not.
I dragged myself to the pharmacy probably around like 5 or 6 weeks pregnant, and that was the pharmacist looked at me and was like, "Have you tried ginger?" And I burst into tears because like it wasn't funny at the time. Like obviously I'm laughing now, but it was not funny, and there was lots of suggestion of like ginger biscuits.
I had a midwife.
Yeah.
When I was in one of my admissions, I had a midwife that said to me, "I've got some crystallized ginger in my handbag. Do you want some?" It was a hard pass. Straight out of her handbag. And I was like, is that even ethical? Are they allowed to do that? That's crystallized ginger out of her handbag. I was like, am I right, Tar?
I can't drink ginger now, or like ginger beer or ginger tea.
Anyway.
Like
I've never
I used to like it. No,
we're off ginger.
No, now we're off ginger.
Okay, so that's ginger. I think we're quite clear on where we stand with ginger. Next one. It'll all be worth it when baby gets here.
Yeah, that was a lot of like, it's worth it though, or like that kind of really, like, I'm having a really, really hard time. I'm really, really struggling. It's worth it though, isn't it?
Yeah.
No. Like at the minute, no, it's not. It's not worth it.
Just try to stay positive. That's really hard to do, isn't it? When you can't get out of bed and you can't have a shower and you can't brush your teeth.
About what? Like
exactly.
Yeah.
Eat and drink little and often. Do you remember that? Take sips of water.
Yeah. I don't know whether that one was said to me too much.
Oh, I had that a lot.
Did you?
Yeah.
No, I don't know whether that one was. I think that's a your one. That's a your one.
There's no evidence that supports that hyperemesis is linked to either gender.
Yeah, so you told me that before this, and I didn't know that. So I genuinely thought that the sex of the baby did impact, because I was told I was probably having a girl because I was so unwell and I hadn't been the first pregnancy, which was a boy, and I was having a girl. So I've completely thought that there was truth to that. I had no idea that.
I saw some statistics that basically worked out HG babies, and I think it was like 46% were boys, 50.
And that's similar to the general population anyway, isn't it?
Yeah. So there was no girls. It wasn't as though more. So no.
Oh, very interesting.
What else the weight thing, we've talked about the weight, as if people see losing loads of weight as a positive.
Yeah, any weight loss being referred to as the silver lining has actually got to be like one of the worst.
Yeah.
Because that's just my own health and my baby's health is at risk. That's not a silver lining to that.
I did once get "you're pregnant, not ill."
Right, so I'm going to have to confess something. So I have said that before to somebody.
You?
Yeah. So when I was about 14.
Okay, well, you were 14.
Yeah, I was 14, and my mum was pregnant with my youngest sibling. She was lying on the sofa, obviously feeling like absolute death, and she asked me if I'd go upstairs and get something for her. and I said the words to her, "You're pregnant, you're not ill." And I now believe that my HG pregnancy was karma for that comment. Because
So if you could go back to 14-year-old Sarah.
What an awful thing to say.
I'm inclined to agree with you on that one.
It's terrible, sorry.
We've had things like HG didn't exist in my day.
Yes, yeah.
It did exist in your day.
Yeah.
It just wasn't talked about. It wasn't, it wasn't.
Well, isn't there in like one of the like classic stories? I'm sure is it one of the Emily Bronte or one of the sisters?
I think Charlotte Bronte.
Is it Charlotte Bronte?
Charlotte Bronte.
She dies, doesn't she?
She did. She did die. So this is and I remember reading about this in that I think on her official cause of death, I want to say it was TB. Or something like that. But yeah, she actually died of hyperemesis.
Yes.
Because back in those days, they thought it was a mental health illness. They thought you were deliberately making yourself sick to effectively terminate your pregnancy.
Oh, that's awful.
So that wasn't very nice.
Yeah.
So those are some things not to say to people when pregnant. Well, this was fun.
Yeah, it was.
Thank you very much.
That. Yeah, that's good.
Enjoy. Chin chin.